Junior. How cool is it that you guys go to a church where in the past 3 weeks we've listened to Bob Marley, John Lennon, and Sammy Davis Jr. And that is, Sammy Davis is part of Ratpack, right? Which is a reference to our sermon title today, and that's about all we're going to get to as far as the Ratpack goes. Okay, so I have something for the kids to do. If you could look in the hymnal, hymn number 44, which we sang today. And at the bottom of the page, you'll see who wrote the words to that song. So let me know as soon as you find out, hymn number 44, who wrote those words. Anybody? Bueller? Emerson, that's right. Do you guys know who Emerson was? Different Emerson. We're going to find out a little bit more about him today. So hopefully there was a place for you. A time when I'm betting you emerged into an experience of wonder and satisfaction such that you forgot the distinction between you and place and you and time. Perhaps this was in an athletic event and you were in the zone. Or at a Grateful Dead show, and who knows what you were in. Or on a trail, or in the midst of fever, or falling in love, or any number of circumstances. But you were in a state where you forgot the distinction between you and time, and you and place. And everything, you included, seemed to be in exact proportion, in harmonious motion. Afterwards, you returned to time and place, changed a little, or perhaps changed quite a bit. And if you've had such an experience, I'm betting many of you have, then you may have some insight into what Emerson was talking about when he called himself a transparent eyeball. That's right, I did not make that up just to have a wacky sermon title. It's from Emerson's own writing, from an essay entitled Nature. And here's the quote, and perhaps you can relate. He writes, "Standing on bare ground, my head bathed by the blithe air and uplifted into infinite space, all mean egotism vanishes. I become a transparent eyeball. I am nothing. I see all. The currents of universal being circulate through me. I am part and parcel of God." So all you kids, get out the pencil or crayon that I gave you earlier, and on the cover of your order of service, write an E for Emerson above the eyeball. Now, Emerson was a transcendentalist. And indeed, some might say he was the transcendentalist, though he might not have agreed with either of those statements. So what is transcendentalism? Well, it would be extremely convenient for me if that quote about the transparent eyeball business, or even the earlier reading, which Dan read to us, served to sum up or convey the essence of transcendentalism. And in some ways they do, but really it's not that easy. Unitarian Universalism owes a huge debt to transcendentalism, and vice versa. And you can see the influence right away, and that they are both very tricky, nigh on impossible to encapsulate or define. They're both fraught with divergent and inconsistent streams of thought. But consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds. That's Emerson also. And actually, that is a good thing to keep in mind when approaching the Transcendentalists. Now, in saying so, Emerson was shrugging off some of the perceived contradictions in his own philosophy. But there was enough variety and inconsistencies and diversity within the entire Transcendentalist clan that the hobgoblin quote may well apply. And indeed, it should be kept in mind, in general, there is finally a binary nature to Transcendentalism. Because it put the onus of revelation on the individual rather than tradition or scripture. There were as many Transcendentalisms as there were Transcendentalists. There was Emerson and his championing of the individual. So kids, write the letter I next to the E to help you remember. And then there was Thoreau and his extolling of nature. And so next to one of the rats, if you want to, you could write T for Thoreau and an N for nature, although Thoreau was no rat. Nor were any of these folks. There was Margaret Fuller, who was a feminist before there was even such a word, and Theodore Parker, a political radical in the pulpit. George Ripley, the utopian, and the poets Walt Whitman and Emily Dickinson, to name but a few people. And they're here very much oversimplified perspectives and roles.